so as promised, this is going to be a demonstration of how to properly drive a mid-drive bike. So I have the Norika Prime right here. This is a mid-drive bike. And of course, my Revenant is right there, and that is a rear hub bike. Both bikes have their pros and cons, but if you're interested in getting a mid-drive bike, such as the Prime, it is very important that you understand how to properly ride these, because the last thing that you want is to be stranded on a trail because you did not understand how to correctly operate the bike and it ends up getting damaged. So to properly ride one of these bikes, it's pretty simple. What I like to compare it to is you're basically wanting to ride these like a manual vehicle. So you always want to start in the first few gears from a dead stop. I'll demonstrate that in a moment and explain why that's so important. But rule number one, from a dead stop, just like you are in a manual shifting vehicle, you want to be in the first gear. But on a bike, it's okay to be in like gear 3, gear 4, it's okay. I would say no higher than gear 4 from a dead stop. And then as you gain speed, you will gradually shift up through the gears. And as you decrease your speed, you will lower your gears gradually. Whenever you're riding one of these bikes, you will know if you're in the optimal gear or not. It'll be very obvious, because if I were to put this bike into gear 10 or gear 11, for example, at a dead stop, and I hit the throttle or I immediately start pedaling, I'm probably going to snap my chain, because the drivetrain is connected directly to the motor right here. So if I put that much torque, and this one has 160 Newton meters, if I put that much torque on the drivetrain, it's definitely going to cause some damage. So that's why it's important from a dead stop, you want to start in one of the larger gears, which is gear, I would say 1 through 4. So any of these will be perfectly fine. But that's rule number one. Make sure you're in the optimal gear. As you gain speed, you definitely want to continue to shift up. And then as you decrease in speed, you want to continue to shift down. Rule number 2, with a mid-drive bike, always be sure that your motor is not engaged while you are shifting. So the motor really won't activate very easily unless you are applying a good amount of pressure. So what I like to do to avoid drivetrain damage in between shifts is when I'm shifting, I stop pedaling, go ahead and shift, and then I lightly pedal just to make sure that the shift completes, and then I reapply pressure to reactivate the motor. Again, I will demonstrate that as well. But those are the 2 main rules. Make sure you're in the optimal gear at all times, and then make sure that you're shifting properly and very gently in between shifts. All right, so like I said, I'm at a dead stop right now, and I'm about to start riding the bike, of course. And as you can see, I'm in one of the lower gears. I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate exactly how to ride these without causing any damage. So I'm gonna start. I'm in gear 3 right now. Motor's engaged, no problem. But I'm noticing I need to be switching gears because I'm not going much faster than about 13 miles an hour. So of course you're about ready to switch gears. So here's what you gotta do. I'm going to switch a gear. I'm in gear 4. I'm reapplying pressure. When I'm ready to switch to gear 5, I stop pedaling in gear 5. Gently pedal, and I'll reactivate the motor. And again, shift, start pedaling gently to perform the shift, reapply pressure. I also want to point out that it's perfectly safe that if you want to shift 3, maybe 4 gears up at one time, that's, in my opinion, about the limit without causing damage. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate that by shifting from gear 3 to gear 7 in one go. I'm gonna stop pedaling, the motor's off. I'm gonna shift 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm just gently pedaling. As you can tell, it's already shifted the gears. It's ready, and I reapply pressure. Stop pedaling, gear 8, gear 9, reapply pressure. I'm gonna slow down, gear 8, gear 7, reapply pressure. Stop pedaling, gear 8, gear 9, reapply pressure. I'm gonna slow down, gear 8, gear 7, gear 6, gear 5, apply my brakes, reapply pressure. Stop pedaling, gear 6, gear 7, reapply pressure. Gear 8, gear 9, gear 10, reapply pressure. All right, I'm gonna come to a dead stop. Gear 9, gear 8, gear 7, gear 6, gear 5, gear 4, gear 3, gear 2, gear 1. So as you can see, the general rule of thumb is basically make sure that whenever you're ready to shift, you don't shift more than 3 at a time. And when you are shifting, make sure that the motor's not engaged. Again, to make sure the motor's not engaged, all you gotta do is pedal very gently, just enough to perform the shift. After that, you're good to go and you can reapply pressure. That's about it. All right, and the last thing I'm gonna show you guys is how to properly use the throttle on a mid-drive bike. Basically, the rule of thumb with that is you always want to be sure that you are either already at an optimal speed for that particular gear, or if you want to just gun the throttle, that's fine, but it's safest to do that when you're in the first 3 to 4 gears. So I'm in gear 2 right now, so it won't damage anything. Here we go. All right, no problem. Biggest thing to avoid with the throttle, you cannot pedal and use the throttle at the same time. That can be incredibly dangerous. It can overwhelm the motor. Another big thing to avoid is do not ever touch the throttle if you're at a high gear at a dead stop. You don't want to hit the pedals either. The motor should not be active